Hello, my name is Ty Rains for Community 10 Television, and I am back here with Len Skowronski, who is the leader of the Alberta Social Credit Party, and today we are going to be talking about healthcare and education. First, Len, welcome back, I guess I should say first.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back.
Glad to have you. Now, before we get started on talking about education and healthcare, can you just give our viewers a brief recap of what we've discussed in the past?
Sure. The highlights of sessions 1 through 4 are as follows. We found that money does not have any value of its own. It only has value when it is traded for goods or services. Enough money must be available to provide the goods and services needed for a good standard of living. The Bank of Canada was established to create the money needed by Canadians. The creation and distribution of money has slipped to the private banks. Individuals and governments are paying billions of dollars in interest to these banks. We should mandate the Alberta Treasury Branch to provide the capital needed by Albertans to establish a thriving economy. We should have the ATB provide loans to Albertans at prime plus a small operation surcharge. Alberta can use its natural resources as collateral to create the credit needed by Albertans. There are an estimated 1.5 trillion barrels of oil in our oil sands. At $100 a barrel, the oil sands are worth $150 trillion. We could lose $24 trillion by exporting bitumen instead of upgraded synthetic crude oil. We could lose an additional $12 trillion being paid out to foreign investors. If we took control of our credits, such as the oil sands, the resulting wealth could provide for our social needs, such as healthcare, education, senior support, communication, transportation, energy, shelter, and food. We would provide a prime rate mortgage through the ATB, and this could save an average homeowner over $226,000 in interest charges. $1 billion a year of royalties collected should be placed into a drilling investment fund for junior oil and gas companies owned and operated by Albertans. So that's the main points we covered so far.
Thank you, Len. Now, today we have highlighted that we would like to discuss healthcare and education, because these are probably the two biggest issues to almost every Albertan out there, because we all get sick sometimes, and many of us have children, and we all need to further our education. So what is the Social Credit Party going to do about these?
Okay. Yes, we should give Albertans the health care they want and the education they need. For health care, we should make a contract with Albertans. We should ask them, what kind of health care services do you want? What kind of standard do you want? That is, how long should the wait times be? And things like that. There should be an analysis done. All Albertans should be asked to contribute to this, so we would know exactly what Albertans expect to be a good health service. Once that has been defined, we should sit down with the people who provide the health care and decide what personnel, what facilities are needed, and what the projected costs would be. Then we should train enough people to provide these services. So we should train more doctors, more nurses, more medical personnel. We should give grants to students who commit to work in Alberta in areas, that most doctors sort of steer away from, northern Alberta, places like that. We do have a policy whereby we say we would, for every year of education we would pay for them, they would have to commit to 1 year in a posting that we determined. Once this is all defined, once we have decided, or Albertans have told the government what they want in healthcare, and we have determined how much it's going to cost, then we should ask Albertans, how do you want to pay for it? Do you want it to come from resource royalties? Or do you want it to come from income taxes, sales tax, or maybe a special health tax? I think the idea of a health tax has some merit. It would work something like how homeowners' property taxes work. Every year, the healthcare budget would be set. And so we would determine these are the services, we know what the services Albertans want, this is how much it's going to cost. Then we would project what the income of Albertans and Alberta corporations would be, and then we would set a rate, almost like a mill rate, on this income to pay for the health. So if it was separate, if it was separate from the other income tax, people would know exactly how much health care was costing them, how much it was coming out of their pocket. And maybe if they tended to abuse it, going to the emergency instead of going to their doctor, maybe they would be a little bit more choose when they go to the emergency a little bit more carefully. And this way there would never be a shortage of money. Now, if the Albertans thought, well, gee, this tax is getting too high, then they could say, okay, it's time the government looked at the budgets of these various outfits. And I don't think we should have one big, massive Alberta Health Services organization. I think we should go back to every hospital governs its own self and has its own budget. And then, then if it was costing too much tax, Albertans would say, okay, we're not happy, make it more efficient. If they can't make it more efficient, then maybe they would have to agree in cutting back some services. So that would be one way of approaching it. Now, for education, again, for education, your public schools and so on, we should have a plan. Again, what kind of education standards do we want, and what kind of delivery standards we should define exactly what teacher proficiency should be, what building suitability, availability of laboratory and computer equipment and sports facilities, travel time to school, and other features specific to local needs. And once that was defined, this would guarantee that rural children would get just as good an education as, say, the big cities. Now, because the population is sparse in the rural areas, we might have to have a little bit more per pupil funding in the rural areas than the cities. And I think that, right now, the funding is given per pupil no matter where the pupil lives. And as a result, the standard of education in many rural areas is much lower than it is in the big cities like Edmonton and Calgary, and even Red Deer, Lethbridge, Grand Prairie, Medicine Hat. So we would not standardize the price per pupil, we would standardize the service. So if it costs more to give an equitable service in the rural areas, then we would pay more per pupil, so that every pupil graduating from high school would have the same chance at, say, post-secondary education centers. Now, in regards to post-secondary education, we again must have a plan. We should know exactly what kind of skills we need in the future. And we are saying we should have a 10-year plan to determine what we will need over the next 10 years in professionals, skilled labor, etc. And we should get together with all of the major corporations, even the small businesses, all the government organizations, all the non-for-profit, and say, what are your estimates for personnel over the next 10 years? How many engineers, how many teachers, how many doctors, etc. do you need? And again, these are plans. It's not going to be exact, but it's much better than now. The average person coming out of high school doesn't know what he should do to be able to go through the 4 years and then come out and have a job. When I graduated, I knew I would have a job, no problem. Now there's a lot of graduates from university don't have jobs. So once this plan was made, then the government should sit down with all of the post-secondary institutions and say, okay, what do you need to provide the education for these people that we will need in the future? So we will provide the facilities, we will provide the professors, we will train the professors or instructors, teachers, etc. And then then we will come up with the budget again. But we will know exactly. And in the long run, there should be no unemployment, and also there should be no shortage of people. Right now, oil sands developers are saying, well, we need special federal dispensation to bring in foreign workers. And some of these are skilled workers. Well, this should not have happened. And again, maybe if we don't have the workers, maybe we should not do as much development. I really don't know why we're in such a hurry to develop those oil sands. They're not going to go away. And unfortunately, the average person is not benefiting much out of it, but there's a lot of foreigners are. But anyway, instead of having to import people into Alberta, you know, there still are unemployed people in Alberta, even though we're importing workers. Why? Because they don't have the skills. Well, if we would have had proper planning, they would have had the skills. And even if they don't have the skills, we should take them and train them and say, well, you guys there, you're going to have to hold back until we train the people. And maybe you should even be paying to train these people. So that way, we would have thousands of young men and women who are currently unemployed would be doing, you know, very valuable and enjoyable work. And I've already mentioned about doctors, but we have a shortage of doctors. That's one of the main problems in our healthcare system. There are hundreds of thousands of people who do not have a family doctor, and that's a real shame. And it's not because we don't have the caliber of people. Every year, the University of Calgary turns away 200 prospective med students. And these are guys and gals with 90 averages in high school. And they can't get in because there's not the spots. So some of them are giving up on being a medical doctor altogether. Others are going to the US, to the UK, to Australia, to South Africa to be trained. Some come back, others don't. So we've got a brain drain there. That should not happen. We're short over 1,000 general practitioners in Alberta. This should not happen. We've got the people, they want to be doctors. We should provide the facilities. So if we do some proper training or proper planning, we will have the personnel we need, we will have the health care we need, and there should be more Albertans happy with our health care and education.
Thank you very much, Len. Are there any other points that you would like to make on the topics of education and healthcare and what the Social Credit Party would like to see done in Alberta to improve those fields?
I guess there's, just a couple more points. As far as with the proper plans, we would always know how much things are going to cost. And we would have a contract with the people, you know, this is how much it's going to cost and you're going to have to pay for it, and you've decided how you're going to pay for it. But if for some reason, you know, there's a real downturn in the economy and the revenue estimates just are not coming in and there have to be cutbacks, we are claiming that education and healthcare should never be cut back. You should stick to the plan. So if you have to cut back on something else, but not on healthcare and education.
Thank you, Len. I think those were points that many Albertans would agree very strongly with. Next time we see you, what will you be telling us about?
We're going to talk about utilities, property, and environment. Again, regaining control of these.
Very important issues. Thank you very much. I'm Ty Raines for Community 10 Television.